This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
There is no doubt that the economic pressure is building.
Black unemployment is up. Black home ownership is down.
For America, no aim is too high, no journey is too far, no challenge is too tough.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
When will it end? Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. 6 months ago today, the United States and Israel launched a war against Iran, a conflict President Trump predicted would last weeks. 6 months later, no end in sight. The U.S. has paused military strikes right now in favor of an economic D-Day attack.
There is no doubt that the economic pressure is building. The long lines at gas stations we're seeing in Tehran, one sign of that. Rampant inflation, of course, is another. A big part of keeping that economic pressure on is, of course, the U.S. naval blockade, which is still in full force and effect.
That's Fox's Jonathan Hunt. Well, justice delayed. The alleged mastermind of the 9/11 attacks finally set to stand trial.
Since 2006, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed has been held at the U.S. military facility at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now, a trial date to take place there has been set for June 2028. If this trial goes ahead, it would be a staggering 27 years after the September 11th attacks.
That's Nick Harper. Mohammed and two others agreed to a plea deal with the Biden administration to be spared the death penalty, but that was revoked after some victims' families expressed outrage. Meantime, more outrage at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation for telling staff to not refer to the events of 9/11 as terrorist attacks as they approach the 25th anniversary. The Canadian public broadcaster says it's going to avoid terms like terrorist and terrorism when describing those attacks and will instead have the staff just call them hijackings. The CBC defends the guidance, saying using phrases like terrorist attacks could undermine its ability to remain impartial. The death toll from the Nepal flood, now over 500. A wall of water tore through a Nepal mountain town on Wednesday, killing hundreds, and authorities say over 1,000 are still missing, including dozens of Americans. U.S. State Department spokesman Tommy Pigott tells Fox.
We have, at this point in time, no knowledge of any U.S. citizen deaths. We acted immediately to provide assistance. Of course, we're in close coordination with the governments, the local authorities.
Groups from Monroe County, New York, are among those rallying together to help the Nepal flood victims.
Rochester has always been a community that respond when people are hurting. And today, the people of Nepal need compassion.
That's Bijaya Katko, who's president of the Bhutanese community of Greater Rochester. The group's launched a fundraiser through their Facebook page and has teamed up with similar groups in Syracuse and Buffalo. He tells WHAM more than 2,700 Nepalese people live in Monroe County, and the community is devastated.
Parents have lost their children. Children have lost their parents, and people have lost their homes. Really, they have lost everything overnight without any warning or any signs.
The Rochester community is planning a vigil on Saturday to honor those who perished. Thousands turned out in Washington, D.C. today for what was billed as a Defend the Vote march on the 63rd anniversary of the famous 1963 March on Washington that gave us the Martin Luther King Jr. I Have a Dream speech. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Black unemployment is up. Black home ownership is down. And black political representation is under assault with Jim Crow-like tactics all throughout the South. Challenging times.
The event organizers say the goal was to pressure lawmakers to respond to eroding federal voting protections for minority voters. Christians targeted and an evangelical church burned in a massacre in Haiti this week that took 47 lives. Harold Isaac is a journalist in Haiti's capital and tells France 24.
Gangs stormed this village, Kesclough, and attacked and killed gruesomely scores of people. This sent shockwaves throughout the country.
The armed attackers also kidnapped 50 people. Isaac says most of the capital is under gang control and believes the attack was influenced by some upcoming elections.
80% of the capital is under gang control, and therefore everybody has to be negotiating in some sort of way, either for products and services to be able to essentially function in the country.
22 of the victims were executed in a church where they had sought shelter. The attack, one of the largest mass killings and kidnappings in Haiti in recent years. years. Back in this country, if you've been trying to learn more about the data center debate, communist China is apparently doing its best to sway your opinion.
Social media platform X says they've uncovered a China-backed influence campaign operating more than 200,000 accounts targeting U.S. users with anti-data center material. X has since shut those accounts down, saying they work to preserve authentic debate.
That's Fox's Evan Brown. Next to the economy, will it come out in the wash?
The Fed's predominant focus right now should be on prices.
That's Federal Reserve Chairman Kevin Warsh, who says the Fed has work to do if inflation persists above a target rate of 2%.
Price stability is not self-executing, nor is inflation necessarily mean reverting. It's the Fed's job to deliver stable prices, no excuses.
He spoke at a symposium in Wyoming. And President Trump today with thanks and medals for the crew of NASA's Artemis II mission.
In the daring deeds of these heroes, we're reminded that for America, no aim is too high, no journey is too far, no challenge is too tough.
The ceremony took place at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Trump today also signing an executive order creating a new U.S. Space Academy dedicated to educating and training people pursuing careers in space. Still to come in the 5 o'clock report, a recap of our top regional stories and highlights from today's staycation destination, the Pennsylvania Lumber Museum. Coming up after weather with Kevin. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Call it the year of the tornado in both states. The National Weather Service has confirmed a tornado touchdown yesterday in the town of Wilton. That's in Saratoga County in eastern New York. The EF1 caused property damage, downed trees, and cut power to thousands, but caused no injuries. That marks the 15th confirmed twister touchdown in the Empire State this year. But Pennsylvania has had a whopping 44 confirmed tornadoes so far this year. That's well above the annual average of 15. New York Governor Kathy Hochul rejecting President Trump's name change for Lake Ontario. Trump signed an executive order renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America. These Canadians think that Lake America idea is all wet.
Outraged over it, despite the fact that I might have some conservative political views. I think it's the same as the Gulf of Mexico. Like, why rename something? It's already there.
Hochul says New York won't be calling it Lake America. The renaming comes as Trump is in a tariff and trade war with Canadian officials. Hochul has been very critical of that trade war. New York State is suing Rensselaer County for disobeying that new law banning agreements with ICE. On Thursday, the Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit against County Sheriff Kyle Borgald asking a judge to vacate a deal the county struck with the federal government, allowing coordination with immigration enforcement. This comes a day after Borgald and 14 other state sheriffs filed a lawsuit challenging that new state law. To Pennsylvania, there's a MyChart scam working its way around. MyChart's a popular online patient portal used by hospitals and healthcare providers across the Keystone State. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
According to the Attorney General's office, scammers are impersonating MyChart by sending emails or text messages offering patients a chance to claim a reward in the form of a MyChart Medicare kit. The state says no such program exists, and messages are an attempt to trick patients into clicking on malicious links so scammers can obtain their personal information and access accounts. They recommend not replying. They say don't even click the unsubscribe button because it also is malicious. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
All right, thank you, Sarah. And back to New York, fresh off that decision to ban Sally, the AI robot, from a Salamanca, New York classroom, there was a 300-person summit held in Western New York yesterday over positive uses of AI in schools. Mustafa Ersoy is in charge of professional development at a network of charter schools in Buffalo and Rochester.
That's going to give them more time to really focus on their student, and, that's exactly why they choose this profession.
He tells WGRZ AI can be used for tasks such as lesson planning and grading, though he admits some teachers still have a lot of doubts.
This is also the newest technology, and if we just turn our back and do not really learn how to use it in an effective way, our teachers and our students are going to miss the biggest opportunity of their life.
Ursoy says the focus of that summit was to train teachers on how to best use AI to enhance rather than replace human instruction. Up next, highlights from today's wrap-up of our summertime staycation series as we grab our saw and put on our plaid and head to the Pennsylvania Lumber Museum. I know there was a day when lumber was absolutely huge in Pennsylvania. I know Williamsport once had at least the honorary title of lumber capital of the world.
That's correct. And lumber is still huge in Pennsylvania. They don't call it Pennswoods for anything. The lumber industry has been an enormous one throughout the history of Pennsylvania, starting shortly after William Penn arrived with the harvesting of white pine. The white pine in Pennsylvania were really prized for the shipbuilding industry, in particular for the large spars, which are the long poles that would hold the mast for the giant sailing ships. So that was really the start of the lumber industry here in Pennsylvania, is harvesting those in particular for the British Empire, for their manufacturing of ships.
Wow. How did the Lumber Museum come to be in Little Ulysses there?
Really, starting in the 1950s or so, there was a group of men working in the lumber industry, both in Pennsylvania but also across this border in New York State. They called themselves the Penn Yorkers. And they were really seeing there'd come a change in the lumber industry, and they were seeing sort of that past starting to disappear, and really that desire to save it, to have it shared, and lobbied the state of Pennsylvania to create a museum. We opened here at the museum in 1970, and we've increased and expanded a little over the years. There is our visitor center, which we share with visitors about a 15-minute orientation film about people's interaction with the forest over time. We have a large permanent exhibit all about challenges and changes in Pennsylvania. So again, people's interaction with the forest, times when Pennsylvania had nothing but trees, times when Pennsylvania had practically no trees, and what those kind of look like and what we can kind of learn from the past. And then outside on the property, we have about 10 acres. We have a number of outbuildings. We have a recreated lumber camp, so we give visitors an experience about what that lifestyle would have been like. The men here in Pennsylvania who were working in the forest historically were known as wood hicks. Basically what we would think of as a logger or a lumberjack today. And throughout much of the latter part of the 1800s and early 1900s, particularly in the region where the Lumber Museum is located, we are in sort of the northern tier of Pennsylvania, very mountainous location. The industry was basically having their workforce out close to the trees themselves in very remote kind of wooded areas and mountains and valleys, harvesting the trees, and lumber camps dotted the countryside.
Highlights from today's staycation. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. And on Labor Day, September 7th, in place of the Noon Report, we'll be airing a special half-hour Best Of edition of Staycation Destinations. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
The Bible urges us to flee temptation, including those tied to money. Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. Some financial temptations are obvious, such as greed, dishonesty, or chasing wealth. But one that often hides in plain sight is the temptation to be stingy. Proverbs 11:24 warns, one person gives freely yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly but comes to poverty. That's the upside-down logic of God's kingdom. When we give freely, we actually gain. Maybe not in dollars, but in joy, peace, and spiritual richness. So when you feel the tension, the pull to hold back or protect what's yours, pause. Reflect on all that God has freely given you. Generosity isn't merely to follow a rule, it's a response to grace. Manage your finances wisely with the easy-to-use FaithFi app. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store, or learn more at faithfi.com.
Thanks, Rob. Finally at 5, did you hear about Rhode Island's squid-pocalypse?
SpongeBob, look out! Give me that wheel!
Squidward would have been horrified. A recent tractor-trailer rollover sent a full truckload of slimy squid spilling onto a Rhode Island highway. These residents tell WJAR you had to smell it to believe it.
Squid has a distinctive odor to it, and I'm a fisherman and I use squid for bait. It can be very foul smelling, especially if it lands on the road and stays there for a while.
I didn't believe it was real when my friend posted about it. She said you might have to climb over a mountain of squid. It felt like something out of SpongeBob or something.
It took several hours on a hot, steamy day for a crew to expunge the squid spill from the road using heavy equipment, a dump truck, and no doubt plenty of nose plugs. And that's the world we live in for Friday, August 28th, 2026. Thank you again for joining us. Have a blessed, spill-free weekend. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.